Al Jazeera podcasts.
Today, hundreds of troops patrol Washington, D.C. streets under Trump's orders, and more are coming.
This is not normal. This is what happens in a dictatorship. And I want to be clear that that is what is happening here.
Are they making residents feel safer? I'm Malika Bilal, and this is The Take.
My name is Keya Chaterjee, and I am the executive director of Free DC.
Keya, welcome to The Take. You are in Washington, D.C., one of the places I call home. It's the capital of the United States. And right now, under U.S. President Donald Trump, soldiers and masked federal agents are roaming the streets in the name of controlling crime. Set the scene for us. What have the streets been like? What have they looked like over the past few days?
Well, there are parts that actually look totally normal, but then there are other parts and random times when, Black men, brown men are scooped up, thrown into cars, and that are just driving away. Sometimes there's not license plates on the cars. Often the men kidnapping them are unlabeled. They're armed. We've seen people expecting food deliveries and delivery drivers being tackled to the ground, literally put in chains around their waists and put into cars. It's really, in some cases, very unclear who these people are. There are massive illegal checkpoints all over the place, stopping vehicles, just stopping people from moving around. Huge FBI presence all over the place. We're seeing particular targeting of returning citizens, of houseless people, of immigrants. But it's just, it's just basically constantly people getting detained. And so it's happening in ways that are clearly meant to incite fear. I do want to say that the other thing that we are seeing, though, is people are also rising up and coming out in the streets and being really present to try to keep our community safe.
Wow. So we know that there were many arrests over these past few days, and that coincides with 800 National Guard troops from D.C. National Guard and 700 troops being deployed from West Virginia, South Carolina, and Ohio. I'm wondering for you personally and those you know, has that made you a little afraid to leave your house? Have you taken different steps? Are you changing your day-to-day?
Well, we are asking people to travel in pairs, to make sure somebody knows where you're going, when you should arrive there. Honestly, it's very sad that this is what we need to do right now, but we do need to tell people to be careful. That said, we also have called on everybody, honestly, everywhere in the world is welcome to participate. But at 8 p.m. every day, to represent the 8 wards of D.C., we are asking people to bang on pots. This is a practice known as cacerolazos all over the world. It's been used by movements against dictators all over the world. We've also invited people to fly DC flags, to fly the Free DC logo, so they can fly the Free DC logo and see that there are others like them. On Tuesday, right after the occupation began, there was a soccer game. And what we heard in the stadium was the chants of Free DC were so loud that the commentators had to stop commenting on the game itself. And so we are seeing an incredible rising up of the people of DC, an incredible understanding of what it is we are up against, and a determination and a defiance that we will get liberation for the people of DC, and that we will not tolerate this occupation. To be clear, we want them gone today. We want them gone immediately. DC did not ask for this. This is not what we want, and we want them gone. It's causing enormous harm.
So I want to talk about the reason that the Trump administration has given for ordering this. Out of control crime.
Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs and homeless people. And we're not going to let it happen anymore.
But crime data from the Metropolitan Police Department, DC's local police force, says that violent crime is the lowest it's been in 30 years. What do we know about who's being arrested?
The people being arrested are often in the middle of the workday. Sometimes they're at home. Sometimes they're just walking down the street or driving down the street. They are predominantly Black and brown men. And they are our neighbors. They are houseless people. And these are people who are an integral part of our community, which is a joyful and beautiful community full of, parents, teachers, nurses, people who work in sanitation, people who are delivery drivers. We are a community that celebrates go-go music and mumbo sauce and really has a sense of clear culture. And they are picking off people in our community and thinking that we won't that we would tolerate that somehow. And I want to be clear, they're picking off the people who they deem to be most expendable, the most disposable. But we don't see them that way in DC. One thing about DC is we have a newspaper called Street Sense that our houseless population writes and edits and puts out. And people in DC are used to seeing our houseless members and buying those newspapers and talking to them and checking in on them and seeing how they're doing. These are our neighbors, and I think that what happens is they don't understand this, the people in the White House, because when you look at how Trump sees DC, he sees DC only through the window of a motorcade. The pictures that he has posted of DC literally are photographs from the window of a motorcade driving from the White House to his golf course. He's never been in any of our neighborhoods where we live. These people don't know the turf of our neighborhoods. They don't know the richness of our community. And they certainly do not know how united we are in our strength and our clear desire for them to leave. We want Trump's forces gone from DC, and we want them gone now.
So I know that there will be those amongst our audience who want to hear figures, because we're hearing from you the emotion and the human side, the human aspect of this story. But the cold, hard facts are total violent crime for 2024 in the District of Columbia was down 35% from 2023 and is the lowest it has been in over 30 years, a stat that I just feel like bears repeating here.
Yeah.
And that's according to data that was collected by the Metropolitan Police Department. So there's a disconnect here between what the White House is saying, the Trump administration is saying, and what the stats say. How do organizers combat that?
Well, they're not even coming up with an excuse for each of these escalations. So every single day, the regime has escalated their violent forces against the people of DC. So most recently, the National Guard was unarmed before. They've now, at the behest of the Secretary of Defense, they are now armed. We did not have essentially invading troops from other states. They have brought in troops from other states now. Now, if we had equal representation under the law, none of this would be possible. I want to be clear that the people in the United States bear some responsibility for leaving the people of DC without equal rights. We don't control our National Guard. Under our limited home rule law, the administration is able to ask for help from our police department. They're not able to control it, and we were able to get a judge to make that clear last week, and to rein them in a little bit.
Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi said overnight that her commissioner is now in full control of the D.C. Police Department. Mayor Bowser says there's no legal basis for this. And as far as many city officials are concerned, the gloves are off.
And so what we're seeing is this constant escalation on their part, and they're not even trying to explain why they're escalating against us. They're not even claiming something happened to cause each of these escalations that we have experienced in the last few days. And so I think that this is a dictatorial takeover of our Capitol that has been made possible by the fact that people in the Capitol do not have representation in our legislature. People who live in the Capitol do not have equal representation under the law. We are extremely vulnerable. And that is not only a vulnerability for the people of DC, that is a vulnerability vulnerability for the entire democracy of the United States, because we know that what people do in the Capitol is what is watched when people on the inside are deciding whether to follow illegal orders from a dictator or not follow those illegal orders.
You mentioned Home Rule Act, and I just want to make it clear for people. How would you describe what that is?
Yeah, so the Home Rule Act was passed in 1973. There was an enormous organizing effort through the civil rights era in the United States. So this is the same, movement that eliminated, the racial authoritarianism of Jim Crow. There was a huge movement towards building towards statehood and voting rights in D.C. We didn't get that full representation under the law at that time. So what we got was limited home rule, and so that is the law that D.C. has limited home rule. And so the executive branch has to operate within the Home Rule Act and the Home Rule law, which again does unfortunately give them the authority to request and essentially demand the support of our local police department for up to 30 days.
More with Keya after the break. Keya, I want to raise something with you that any victim of a crime might resonate with. And that is that we know the stats, we hear the stats. But when you have been the victim of a crime, there's a feeling, if you've experienced a carjacking or a violent crime, things that do happen in every major city in the United States, unfortunately, and in Washington, D.C., it can make a city feel unsafe. So even though crime may be at its lowest, what would you say to people who say, I feel unsafe?
Yeah.
I resonate with what the Trump administration is doing. I want them to come into my neighborhood and make me feel safe.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I would say to somebody who's experienced trauma is that I'm sorry that you experienced that. It is really scary. And it is a really valid fear that people have. I think people are now seeing very clearly that also tackling down to the street a delivery driver and putting metal chains around their waist and having to see that is also really scary and really traumatic. And when that starts to happen at random and at scale, that's terrifying for a community. We know that what can stop both of these kinds of traumas, right? Like, we know we can build public safety by building community, by taking care of our children, by providing outlets for them, by improving our economy, by giving people jobs, by giving people housing. We know, it's very, very clear that we can improve public safety through these measures that in fact have been working. And so, yes, we have more work to do to form community and be together and to get people to safety, but we can do that work together. All that work is being reversed right now. On the other side of the coin, we know what needs to happen to stop the crimes we are witnessing that are arbitrarily attacking people right now in DC. And it is that Trump can remove those forces and that everybody in this country can decide, is this something I actually want to be associated with? It's time for some of the corporations, some of the billionaires that fund Trump to think, is this what I want my brand to be? Tackling people in the street. This is a which side are you on moment. And right now, either you are on the side of the people of DC or you are on the side of tyranny. And I want people to understand that is what is happening right now and that people have a choice to make.
Well, Keya, Donald Trump in his press conference announcing that DC needed to be cleaned up, so to speak. He said that the district was unsafe, dirty, and disgusting. That is not the Washington, D.C. that I know.
It does sound like
vibrant, Trump, though. I know a vibrant, beautiful, rich, and diverse city. And one thing our international audience may not know is that it once had the moniker Chocolate City because of its predominantly Black population. The numbers have changed on that. But a lot of this rhetoric around crime is being specifically used against cities that have sizable Black populations and or have Black liberal or left mayors. How is the demographic. How is that playing into this moment?
Well, it's really clear that this regime is targeting cities that are run by Black people, and and where the electorate has voted for Black people to make our laws. These are our elected officials. These are the duly elected people that we chose to elect in these communities, and we're seeing a pattern. This is consistent with a pattern of attacking words like equity and inclusion, and attacking universities who care about equity and inclusion. So this is a full-on assault on people of color in the United States, but also, like, very discreetly, it is an attack on communities, families in those communities where we are represented by Black people and where we are predominantly Black and brown. And, DC still is a majority community of people of color, and the largest population group in DC is Black people in DC. And so it's very clear that, it's not just these roving gangs that are racially profiling and racially discriminating. It is the regime itself that is doing so.
What about the local government? How did they play into this? What has the response been from the city's mayor, Muriel Bowser, to the city council?
So, as I said, DC is completely united in wanting these troops gone, in wanting this escalated. It's hard to say just the word troops, because it's not only the troops we want gone. It's also this escalated federal armed presence, and so we have been completely united from day one. Every single elected official in DC has been united that we want them gone.
I think I speak for all Americans. We don't believe it's legal to use the American military against American citizens on American soil.
We also know from studying movements that take down dictators all over the world that leadership has to come from the people. And we also know that DC is uniquely vulnerable, again, because leaders in the rest of this country have not deemed us worthy of equal representation under the law. And, the mayor said this, but I want to reiterate, Democrats in this country could have given DC control of our National Guard many times over by now. Since 1973, we could have been given statehood so that we had protection. And so I think this is an important moment to realize that, this can end. Every time we see an act of brutality, this can end by removing the federal forces. This can end by giving DC control of the National Guard. This can end by giving DC statehood. And this can end by actually achieving a free DC.
Okay, I want to end with looking ahead and what could come next. President Trump has listed a bunch of cities that he is planning to target next.
You look at Chicago, how bad it is. You look at Los Angeles, how bad it is. We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone.
Chicago, my original hometown, got to mention. It seems like he's planning to do this in other cities. What would you say to people in those cities to prepare them for what you and other DC residents are experiencing now?
Well, the first thing I would say would actually be to people of other places. And so I would say to people of Ohio, to the people of West Virginia, to the people of South Carolina, you have the ability to get your governor to pull these National Guard members back. And that's really important. The next thing I would say is that everybody can email their member of Congress and support the move to terminate this attack on DC immediately. The more we can make this backfire on them where they try it, the safer it will be in cities that they want to attack next. So the best thing that people can do right now is stop the immediate crisis here. Now, what everyone else should also be doing is looking at what are the best practices for us to organize. There's no guarantee this will end at any point without civil resistance. We want people to not obey in advance. if we do things before we're required to do it, then we're just giving away our agency, our freedom, our liberation. The second thing is to prioritize joy, because we know oppressed people all over the world in all times have used song, have used dance, have used, prayer, have used these like really key tools in order to prioritize joy in a way that keeps us in community and keeps us anchored in our values. Our third, part of our ethos is to take up space. This is our home. These are our communities. This is our turf. They do not know it. It is ours. Our fourth is to show solidarity at every step of the way. We know how dictators work. They try to divide and conquer. They'll go after the most vulnerable people. And number 5 that we ask people to do is organize. Meet people where they are, have a conversation, understand their concerns, and bring them in the movement that will bring liberation for people. Because again, I want to say, it's not, right now, yes, our demand is to get them out, but I want to be clear, the thing we're working for in DC is a free DC. We want equal representation under the law, and we want liberation for the people of our communities.
Keya, you gave us a concrete list of where to start. Thank you so much for this conversation and for laying it all out for us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
And that's The Take. Do you live in D.C. or one of the other places Trump has said he wants to clean up? We want to hear from you, and we'd like your thoughts on today's conversation. What did you think of this episode? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Our team will be reading through. And I'll see you tomorrow.